Finna. It was. You some glow sticks, dude?
Gotta give the people a show, you know? All right, ready?
Not sure if they asked for that.
I give the people what they want. They want a show. All right? They
I think they want
a
you
show.
I think they want
Can you guys hear me? Oh, I gotta change it.
I think they want you to eat.
1 second. All right. What's up, Atlanta? This is the MOTS South Podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer in the palatial 680 of the Fan Studios, adorned by the San Francisco Atlanta United flag. Thank you, San Francisco, for bringing that in. Gentlemen, I'm Eric Quintana, Josh Bagriansky, Sam Franco. I should probably introduce us before we actually start the show.
Yeah, they know who they're talking about.
If you're new to the podcast, we are on YouTube. You can subscribe to us at MOTS Podcast on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting the bell for all the notifications. Smash that subscribe button. Ding! Make sure you're getting all the latest news and notes when it comes to Dirty South Soccer, or when it comes to Atlanta United from Dirty South Soccer. And here we go. Gentlemen, how goes it?
Well, you know, it's one pretty bad traffic out there today. I
What a
think
mess.
Not great.
when you look at the rain plus the daylight savings time thing making it darker earlier, it's just a whole big jumbled mess.
We actually haven't kind of gone over this after the radio show we did earlier at 7 o'clock. And of course, you can listen to us every Wednesday, 7 o'clock on Atlanta Sports X. I didn't think we were going to get here in time with the rain. I got here like 10 minutes before the show.
Tight.
Eric got it. We were thinking, where's Eric? You know, Eric
I'm usually here about 6:25.
works here and lets us into the studio. And then our producer for the show,
He got here like
must
30
have
seconds.
sprinted in, and then we start the show, and it had been such a helter-skelter thing
Your
getting the
mic's
board
not
set up.
on.
My mic wasn't on, and fortunately Sam covered for us and just had to talk for about 60 seconds straight.
Yeah, luckily I'm kind of adept at doing
Yeah,
that.
fortunately you work in radio and all that, so we pulled it off pretty well, but what a mess.
Let me talk to you guys about something real quick.
Okay.
And it's not going to come out for the podcast listeners, but I'll explain it as best I can. The YouTube people are going to be able to see it.
Don't ask me who I vote.
So I got my hair cut the other day, and
I
the
think
guy
that's
that
good.
no, I like it, but here's the thing: it's something strange I've never had done before. He took the straight razor to the part.
Really?
And
So
it was-
he made the part even more pronounced.
Yeah, and he didn't ask permission or anything. I like it. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, bro, you just shaved a line into my head. Like, make sure I'm okay with it.
Isn't that the Franco Escobar?
I don't know. That's what I was thinking. I was like, I wonder.
Well, that's the thing. That's what everybody's doing nowadays. Really faded and thin on the sides, and then you have this big comb over deal like on the top.
Was it a South American stereotype where he
He
was
was-
like, oh yeah, he wants,
his I think his mother was from Guatemala. His father was Puerto Rican.
No, you totally got the,
I'm sorry,
you totally got the
Cuban
Latino stereotype.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
they
style.
gave you that one.
I think it looks fine.
No, I like it. It was unique. I'm used to. I mean, before I worked at the place I work at, which is a very professional setting, I had super long hair. I was going for the man bun, doing my own version of the Andrew Carlton
Yeah, you were way cooler.
thing, and much cooler.
Eric was
The
so
longer
much
the
cooler.
hair, the cooler I am. That's what
Fair.
I've come to find out.
Fair enough.
So super short hair. We know how cool I am now.
Showing up in a suit. What a professional guy.
Believe me,
Eric
that is-
Man, this podcast is off to
That
a
is-
flyer of a start.
That is not by choice. All right. Atlanta United gets the 1-0 win in the first leg of their playoff, 2017 playoff life. Big, fantastic win, 1-0 against NYCFC on that basketball court of a pitch.
It's abysmal. It's an atrocity. It's a damn shame is what it is.
It's a black mark on the league. That's
a
for
joke.
sure. However, I will say that it is kind of gimmicky, and I do kind of like that does exist to an extent. For example, it's not the same thing, but it is sort of the Green Monster in Boston with the Boston Red Sox at Fenway. That's gimmicky. It's again, tradition has been there for forever, so I'm not saying do away with it.
That doesn't nearly impact the play
Not at all.
as much as there is not a team that is playing on a field in any sport that the game is more affected by than this. At least I can't think of one in terms of playing a sport on the completely incorrect size field. I mean, we saw Atlanta United play at Georgia Tech last season, but that was that was acres bigger than what you've got at NYCFC and Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it's way too small. The one thing I will say that I loved, looking back at this match, I love the way Tata set up his team tactically, formationally. Elliot Bevan in the YouTube chat mentions how this is the best defensive performance this was the best defensive performance since the Minnesota match. It's great that you point that out. I will say that it's a different defensive performance. We mentioned on the radio show a little bit, and we can kind of expand on it here, but the defensive performance you got from Atlanta United against NYCFC was defensive, but it wasn't turn the keys off, turn the bus off, and let it rest there. There was still a lot of movement going forward. There was still a lot of dynamic passing that Atlanta United is able to do. It's not just as soon as you get the ball, launch it upfield and wait for the next wave. Atlanta United was very deliberate with how they were defending. I think we mentioned last week how we wanted both fullbacks, whoever they were, to kind of stay behind the ball for the most part, to be able to add to the defensive shape of Atlanta United whenever they weren't on the ball. And for the most part, that's what they did. Rarely did you see Gressel or Garza ahead of the ball whenever NYCFC had the ball.
Escobar and Garza in this case. Gressel playing through the middle.
I'm sorry, yeah. Escobar and Garza.
Right.
You did have the moments where Escobar did go up. I wasn't saying they shouldn't, but when it came to the defensive responsibilities, they definitely, I think everyone basically wanted 10 men behind the ball for the most part whenever Atlanta United didn't have the ball. I think they did that wonderfully for the moments, for especially in the first half.
And I think it was a great tactical performance by the team and also from Tata Martino in that you had to kind of strike a balance between maintaining your aggressiveness, that's kind of a part of your DNA, but also being wary of the defensive side of the ball, particularly considering, number one, NYCFC only lost once at home all year. They're the best home team in the league. A big part of that, obviously, is the monstrosity of a pitch that they get to play on and they're used to playing on, and they give teams a lot of problems. And also Atlanta United's, I think, general lack of confidence coming off the Toronto match. So Tata Martino had to find a way to kind of strike a balance between a first leg in a difficult environment when you're not in the best form, and finding a way to recognize that, play conservatively and defensively while not losing your aggressiveness completely. And I think he struck that balance perfectly, and I think the crux of the tactical setup was kind of what you mentioned, Eric, was playing two out-and-out fullbacks on the right and the left and going more of a back five that would morph into a back three, as opposed to what we've seen this year, which was a back three that would morph into a back five.
I mean, I totally get what you're saying there, Josh, but could we also simplify it to where the difference in this game was Atlanta United had Miguel Almiron back?
I don't know, because he only played 45 minutes, and if you look at the I don't think. I mean, he definitely helped
because he was in when they got the goal, obviously, and then
he relieved a lot of pressure, especially in the middle of the field. But for the most part, it was the defensive effort. Remember, the goals came off of all the really big chances they had in the first half came off the set pieces.
And I think that I didn't think any individuals really stood out, and it was more of a cohesive team performance. Is Miguel Almiron a big part of that? Absolutely, and I think he was a big part of the reason the first half Atlanta United were able to get hold of the ball a little bit and knock it around, whereas in the second half it became more of a straight over-the-top kind of countering match. But I don't think. I mean, you needed every single player on the pitch, from your first 11 to Ezequiel Barco coming in doing a great job the last 10 minutes. You needed everybody to contribute, and everybody did.
We talked about this a little bit on the radio show too. That was definitely Barco's most professional performance. He came in, was very selfless, did everything he was asked to do. Did a great job of just running after the ball, getting the ball.
Sam's so excited that he was running all the time. Everyone's like, Barco's amazing. He's running off the ball.
Well, no, I mean, those are the things we haven't seen him do, though.
It was a professional performance. So I'd say the most encouraging thing with that, and with the Tito, is in the playoffs, you have to have you can't have guys that are discouraged coming off the bench. They have to come in, be ready to do a job, and do it right away. And
you say that in jest, but I mean, in reality, we haven't seen him do those things.
Yeah, well, he hasn't been told to do those things.
Well, I know, but I'm saying the fact that we saw him come in and maybe not necessarily, I'm sure he was told to do it, but also the fact that he went out there and had that completely selfless performance. I mean, that's a great sign from what we've seen.
To see that he's willing to do that, because I don't think he's in your first 11 right now. So if he is, it's good to see that he is willing to play 5-10 minutes and do what you want him to do, as opposed to, as we see a lot of high-priced players like that get subbed in the last 5-10 minutes and they kind of sulk and don't do what you want. So I think it's good that you see in a player in Barco is willing to come and put in a shift for 5 or 10 minutes, which a lot of players don't want to do.
Do you think he's not in the best 11 because the fact that Atlanta United and him are kind of just a different stylistically, or do you think he's not in it because of form? I mean, is it more of a fit thing, or is it more of just the fact that he's not playing?
As far as him not moving around enough?
Well, I'm just saying we talked about his style of play, sort of gumming things up and gumming up the works a little bit.
I think his struggles have to do with form, but I think style of play wise, I mean, we can go down that rabbit hole forever, but I don't think that had anything to do with his performance in this game. I think he was asked to do a certain job for 5 to 10 minutes. The rest of it, we'll see.
Well, I just think that, I don't think he's playing because I think that way more has to do with the fact that his style of play doesn't fit into how Tata feels like, approaching this playoff run.
I was actually surprised he didn't enter the game earlier. Just specifically because of that, because of the way he holds up the ball, the way he draws defenders. He drew the foul basically 10 seconds after he got in, and that led to a free kick. The good thing about playing in NYCFC, every free kick is a dangerous opportunity.
And he created where it was. A couple of opportunities from dead ball situations.
I'm surprised that he wasn't in earlier to kind of not only hold up play up in the final third for Atlanta United, but I mean, that by in itself would relieve some of the pressure on the back line in the midfield. I thought he did a great job of just Jason Longshore mentioned he was a mosquito on that back line. I thought that was perfect because that's exactly what he is. He was just a nuisance. He was a gnat that was just flying around, doing whatever he had to do to just contribute to the team. And I think if you're looking at your $15 million man to do anything right now in a time where he's not in the starting 11, is just to contribute however you can. And when you do have your moments, shine. Do the best you can and prove that you're still going to work hard for this team. I thought he did that fine.
And he's got a clean slate too for whoever the new manager is. So maybe by playing the way he's playing now, for whoever does end up taking over this job, he's kind of got that blank slate a little bit and has a chance to come in and maybe not have the same sort of relationship that he has with Tata in terms of, Tata being disappointed in what he had done earlier this season.
I think what encourages you most about Barco's performance is that along with the rest of his teammates, he put in a shift for 90 minutes, is willing to do the dirty work, and most importantly, well before he even entered the match, Atlanta United showed a commitment to do that. And that's something that I think kind of goes against Atlanta United's DNA. I mean, Elliot, as you mentioned in the chat earlier, Eric brought up the Minnesota match. That was a match where you went up a goal, you went down a man, and then you got behind the ball and defended.
You were forced to make adjustments.
This was a match where you came out from kickoff with a little bit more of a conservative outlook, playing that 5 across the back that we haven't seen all year. Like I said, we've seen a similar outlook with the 3-5-2, which can turn into 5 in the back, but you never started a match with an out-and-out 5 in the back. Now, whether that's because Garza hasn't been healthy all year, who knows? But this was a different type of defensive performance in that for the first time all season, you came out from minute 1 focusing on your defense and your discipline and your positioning first. And it's hard for a team to flip the switch and become that kind of methodical, disciplined system side that Atlanta United are not. They're a team that rely on improvisation, creativity of attack. playing fast tempo. So for them to be able to flip the switch and do that, aside from the fact that the tactics were very good, but for the players on the pitch, for Eric Remedi to become a disciplined defensive midfielder, willing to sit in front of the back line and not drift out and go and get caught in high positions. For your outside backs, like Escobar in particular is a player. Let's go back to the Dallas match where you tried to finish in the 5-3-2, right? Mm-hmm. That was a match we talked about a lot. You tried to finish that match in this exact formation you started in. And Escobar went to the right, got caught forward. Miles Robinson made a mistake in behind, and you conceded the equalizer, one of the softest goals you conceded all year. This game, we didn't see that from Escobar. Stayed at home, picked his spots, got up and pressured when needed, but was always back at home. And so you kind of saw that across the pitch with guys willing to put in the dirty work defensively and doing it very well, which is something that a lot of these guys have not been asked to do from the opening kickoff pretty much all year long.
So do you trust him more in
Remedi?
No, I was going to say Escobar. Do you trust him more now in that wing back spot? Because, again, that Dallas game obviously left a lot of people with a sour taste in their mouth, and I think he's been more central in terms of in the back line, whether it be a 5-3-2 or a 3-5-2, depending on how you style it.
And we've seen him at right fullback with 4 at the back as well.
Right, but, would you rather – and as a right back in the four-man back line, you're not necessarily tasked with going forward as much as you would be as a wing back. So it's just kind of one of those things where do you trust him a little more now in that wing back slot, or in an ideal situation, do you have Gressel and Garza as the wing backs and you have Escobar inside?
I think we'll probably have our answer to that this weekend, where I think we speculated on the radio show that you'll see Atlanta United come out with more of that 3 at the back, 3-5 instead of 5-3-2. If you do that, for me personally, if you do that, I like Escobar as your right center back.
I'm 100%.
And then you go Gressel and Garza as the wing backs. But I
don't like him as much out wide in that scenario.
Because he's an aggressive player and likes to get forward. When you do that in the back 4, you only have 2 center backs covering for you. In a back 3, I think his issue is more just technical and quality going forward. You need someone that can get forward and help you attack. But in a back 5, when you have 3 center backs covering for you, and by the way, I'll have a story on the tactics coming out tomorrow on Dirty South Soccer.
Boo! Self-blood, boo!
You can take a deep dive. But when you're the right back in the back 5, you have 3 center backs covering for you, so you're not quite as exposed if you want to bomb high as Escobar is.
He may like to bomb forward and get involved in the attack, but I think he's better when he's asked to play the center back role and he's not
exactly. Well, there's a reason he's a center back and a right back, and not a right back and a right mid like Julian Gressel is. He's a much more traditional defender across the back 4.
Much more traditional, but also a risk taker.
One of the things that I loved about this match, and I think there's a lot of elements to this that make it very specific to playing against NYCFC in New York. I wanted to see this kind of performance against Toronto. I think if we had the same performance against Toronto, now again, the size of the field is a big factor, but I think you see the same performance against Toronto, you're talking about supporter shield.
Yeah, but Miggy, that's the biggest thing.
I think even without Miggy, that kind of performance, you're still looking at, again, size.
I don't think you can have that kind of performance without Miggy, though.
Again, it was a team effort, though. Everyone behind the ball was moving in unison across the field. It was almost like a symphony. It was beautiful.
It was.
I just think you had players like, for example, against Toronto, you had, Nagby pushed further up the field, maybe a little uncomfortable in that scenario. So I think there was a couple of different things that led to that, but it's kind of a domino effect of not having Miguel Almiron in the lineup.
Right, but and I'm not saying that's not the case.
Right.
I'm also I guess failing. Well, I'm not failing. I mentioned it, but you also have to consider the size of the field too. Atlanta United is obviously defending a lot smaller space.
The size of the field. It always comes back to the size of the field.
NYCFC obviously less space to work with, so obviously that had a big factor. It was fantastic to see Garza back in the lineup. I thought him bombing up that left side reminded me of what Atlanta United could be.
And we talked about this on the radio show, the trepidation that you and I kind of both had, just seeing him thrust right into the starting lineup there. You're like, whoa, I know he played against Toronto, but nobody was convincing against Toronto. And then you have him, come in and this, and it's like, ooh, I don't know, second game back.
And, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if he's played on the left side of defense in a back 3, back 5.
Oh, that's a good point.
He might have once or twice. He might have, but he got hurt early, and so he's probably
been the wing back.
3 matches, maybe 2 or 3 matches before he got hurt.
Well, it just depends on how you view the tactics.
His role, even in a 4-man back line, he's still that wing back.
Exactly. Yeah,
nothing really.
He charges forward.
But I thought, it's a tough spot for someone to say, look, you haven't played in several months other than the minutes in the Toronto match.
This is the pressure pack
You're
situation.
going to play left back on the road, and by the way, we're going to play a system we haven't played all year. So, fantastic. And a pleasant surprise to see him. That was a tough job. He had to step in and be sharp right away.
You talk about professional performances? Yeah. Absolutely.
And for me, I think as far as the players who did what they were supposed to do from an attacking and defensive standpoint, he was as good as anyone on the pitch. Almost scored a goal in stoppage time.
Did.
Great save by Sean Johnson.
I'm actually mad that he saved that. That was a fantastic first-time hit.
Yeah, really nice. He
as opposed to not being mad that he saved it from the team that he tasked with covering.
You want to see it for the guy, First game back in a while, you want to see him crush the ball in the net, and that was a great opportunity.
It would have been nice. But huge performance.
By the way, one thing I did want to bring up when you're talking about this team is Joseph's dip in form. Are we worried about that going forward a little bit? He definitely hasn't been the same guy since breaking the goal scoring record.
Not really. He had great chances against NYCFC. I think that.
Then this brings up the old thing about, chances created is one thing, you got to finish them. And I know that's a little bit get off my lawn type, but at the same time in the playoffs, it's true. You got to finish these chances in the playoffs.
The thing is, if it's not him scoring, he's creating opportunities for someone else. Like it's his presence alone. What did I say about it? It's like the Julio Jones effect. His presence alone is going to draw the attention of defenders.
Shout out to Julio for scoring a touchdown this weekend.
It's the same thing with Joseph Martinez. He's going to draw the attention of the defenders. You saw it almost happen with the Tito goal or with the Tito miss.
And the Garza save. He put it back for Garza.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You look at the attempt that he makes on the corner that leads to the Remedi goal. That was all him. He's creating stuff for Atlanta United. It's not like anything.
Color.
It's just, I think more than anything, I was more worried after Toronto lost because of the miss he hit just wide. That to me was
hit the post.
Yeah, the one that hit the post and went out. Yeah.
You could be a little bit of a snowball effect though. Like if he gets one, if you find, like, say he scores this weekend.
That's what's going to happen. I think.
You think so?
I think at home, yeah. I'm not worried so much about him not scoring the play. He's going to score at some point. I'm hoping it's against NYCFC at home, and it's too very early, and the game's already over by halftime.
Color me completely not worried because every striker suffers a similar dip in form, and that's just the case. If you're not,
it's not even a dip in form. It's just he's gotten kind of
goal
unlucky.
Scoring. Every single strike. And if you look at
it's not like he's physically playing bad. He just has gotten kind of unlucky.
And if you look at the rate that he was finishing his chances over the first 27, 28 matches. It's not sustainable. It was incredible, but we kept talking about how is he still scoring every week? That's not the norm. So when I look at a dip in goal scoring form from a striker, what I look at is not so much the goals, because a great striker, the goals will come. But are they still getting chances? Are they still creating for others? Are you still seeing the work rate and commitment? And we've clearly seen that from Joseph Martinez during this entire stretch, where a lot of other strikers would maybe get frustrated. And I think Joseph Martinez proving a lot of people wrong who got on him for being kind of a bit of a diva at times. And he's a number 9, so he's a
all
diva
of them are like
by
that.
Definition.
Yes.
But I think in terms of his work rate, his commitment to the team, that hasn't dipped one bit at all. And that's why I'm not worried. But
because he's still doing the little things that the goals aren't coming now, but you're just saying, look, they're going to come.
Still an incredibly impactful player, and I think he doesn't seem to be lacking confidence, like Eric said. So I'm very confident the next chance he gets at home, he's going to finish it.
Just don't launch long balls at him, because he does not like that.
Yeah, and that was, I think, one of the reasons that Barco came on for Villalba. Although maybe Villalba was injured, but
Villalba didn't look right from the moment he stepped on the pitch.
And it looked like long ball was the tactic with those two, was to go over the top and use Villalba's pace. And for some reason, it really should have been a match for him. There was lots of space opening behind in the second half, and Tito just wasn't able to exploit it.
It just looked like he was hurt.
Yeah, that's the Villalba. I guess that's the one unknown from this match is what happened.
Do we not get quotes? I think.
It's like he played against Toronto, but
they mentioned that he might have. They were a little afraid that he had re-aggravated something. So I think that played a lot into it. I think that he might not have been pushing himself just to make sure.
I agree. You
then
can kind of see that.
30 minutes into the second half, after putting him on, they take him off. You didn't use all 3 subs, right? So
no.
You obviously didn't feel like you needed to make changes. So that's good, I guess, in a sense. You guys want to go over some of the stats from the match, which are kind of mind blowing?
Well, our favorite one, of course, is 0 shots on goal.
That's always good.
New York City, which is, plays into the best defensive performance of the year narrative we kind of discussed.
Yeah, Brad Guzan had a little bit of a snoozer.
Yeah, he's chilling, man. Although I thought he controlled the 18-yard box brilliantly.
He did. Absolutely.
Came off his line a bunch, started the attack on the counter. He was brilliant. But yeah, didn't have to work, didn't have to make a save.
I know. Sorry, my computer just kind of froze up on me.
Thanks, Eric.
Here we go. Hold on.
Wait, you have to have a computer to do this?
I know there were zero shots on target, 3 shots off target, and then 5 shots blocked.
The block shots, yeah.
And
that's huge to me.
That's your back 5, right? You have a bunch of players behind the ball around the box at all times, so you would expect that.
Does Joseph throwing his body in front of that bike count as a block shot? I guess it doesn't actually count. I guess it doesn't actually count as a shot.
Counts as a foul drawn.
Right. So yeah, it doesn't count as a shot.
And that's another moment we just kind of talked about with Joseph is he's, despite the fact he's not scoring,
doing the little things,
and that's why I'm not worried about him.
And that's not even a little thing. Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a little thing. He threw his body in harm's way, got kicked in the head.
From him.
The one thing that we obviously did see was a couple yellow cards. Eric Rometti with 1, and Bijanba with 1. Joseph Martinez with another.
You know the one that's next to Rometti's name that's more important, though? Goals.
His goal was crazy. Oh, here's what I was going to bring up. Crazy how this might have been the best set piece performance from Atlanta United. And it came at a good time.
Maybe in franchise history.
Yeah, franchise history.
I mean, you had the 1 goal disallowed that comes from the short corner.
Which, by the way, was a beautiful hit by Miggy to take nothing away from the effort. I mean, the fact that, and some people might not have realized right off the jump that was 100% intentional for him to smash it into the ground and get that pop for it to bounce over the keeper like that.
Rometti with the cross on that. And then, if I'm not mistaken, the big Escobar chance, which he missed terribly.
That came out Garza too.
Oh, man, I
thought that came initially from Rometti as well, with a little clip into the box and then got flipped across. But so, again, this is all the patterns and the way the chances were created show that a lot of this was by design from Atlanta United.
It's possible that's the best goal-scoring chance Escobar will ever have.
I don't know how he missed it, to be honest.
Well, I'm saying, even the goal he scored, that wasn't even as good of a chance as this one.
He missed another sitter this year.
But, I mean, this one was...
I'm telling you, he is never going to score again. He will never score again.
I'm surprised at how many chances Atlanta United was able to put together. Not only off set pieces, but this game could have been 5-0.
Well, if you look at it,
they were completely out.
If they had capitalized,
and I think Atlanta United would be kind of outperforming the amount of chances that they got, but they did get that many chances. For NYCFC, the Matarrita chance, where he probably should do better, and that's 10, 15 minutes in. That was it. I mean, they got into some dangerous positions. You mentioned the 5 blocks, Eric. But it was really nothing going forward. And even though, particularly in the second half, NYCFC had the ball the entire time. Atlanta United didn't win a single 5-minute period. They didn't win possession in a 5-minute period a single time in the second half. So, and despite that, you've got the late chance from Garza. You've got Barco coming on late, creating a couple opportunities from set pieces. There were a couple of times where Martinez and Villalba both got into dangerous positions that probably should have done better. One I remember specifically was where Joseph got in down the right and played Tito into the box, and the pass wasn't too crisp.
Oh, no, I don't blame Tito for that, though. I mean, the pass was behind him.
Not a great pass. Maybe he should hit it one time.
He should have hit it one time, I agree with that.
There's another one where Tito steals the ball off a defender, hits kind of a weak left-footed shot at the keeper. There's another late chance for Joseph Martinez that he ends up pulling back for Greg Garza. So even though NYCFC has the ball, and as a fan, you're super nervous, right, because you're under pressure. But the team looked composed, and in the end, you look at the chances, and Atlanta United were the more dangerous attacking team despite not having the ball and playing 5 across the back. Was that just so great? That
I was here waiting for Eric, and then it's like that scene in Old School when Will Ferrell kind of blacks out on James Carville, and he's like, "Well, what happened? I just blacked out." And James Carville, Jeremy Piven looks over at James Carville and goes, "Your turn." He goes, We got nothing, man. That was perfect.
I was going to say I'm going to leave on a high note, like George Costanza.
That's another.
That's it for me. I'm gone. See you guys next week.
56% possession for NYCFC, 43% for Atlanta United.
And Eric, I think they probably had 62, 63 plus in the second half.
It didn't feel even. It also, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what at halftime after the game. I could not have told you what the percentage was.
First half, the possession was about even, but second half, I mean, they must.
But it was so back and forth. I really couldn't.
Well, I mean, possession can be overrated, right? It's more about where do you possess the ball?
Yeah, I didn't care about it.
Penetrating into dangerous areas, and we talked about that all last week. Atlanta United should have no problem playing without the ball if they're keeping NYCFC from being dangerous. And those possession stats are wholly irrelevant when you, like I said, you go back and look at the chances. And also I thought NYCFC really did themselves a disservice, getting very frustrated very, very early in the match, starting to press. They got, I don't mean press like high press, like put pressure on themselves. And they just became very tense. They do things that we've seen Orlando do. Seriously, like when you'll see teams like Orlando get very frustrated early.
By the way, when do we talk about Orlando unintentionally giving Will Johnson a contract extension?
Yeah, just another
quickly as an aside, there was
can we throw that out there real quick?
An unknown player who had a option in his contract. Well, not an option. I guess he would be re-signed for a third season.
Yeah, it was a trigger. It was a clause in his contract that triggered another year.
And the Orlando City coaching staff didn't know about that. It
probably has to do with the change in coaches that they made.
Maybe, and just being a disaster.
Or it's just the fact that dumpster.
And they accidentally started him one match too many, and now he's lost.
There should be someone there because I can't imagine.
And we did confirm that's Will Johnson, right?
Well, basically, he started 26 games. These types of clauses will be at 25 or something like that. And everybody was when Orlando released all the players under contract for next year, everyone was like, "How was Will Johnson? How was he on a 3-year deal? He's a terrible player in person." And in person, yeah. And so funny stuff down there from Orlando.
I mean, literally, they unintentionally played a guy too much, and it triggered a clause in his contract to where it gets renewed for
pretty amazing.
That is just
glad we're not them. There's a reason they're not in the playoffs.
That is horrendous.
Just add it to the list of comedic errors from Orlando City. It's just truly unbelievable what they do down there.
I didn't mean to break up the show. I just wanted to make fun.
Well, we would be remiss if we didn't mention that little nugget. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned Orlando, and I got the brain ticking there about that.
but anyways, to go back, why I mentioned Orlando about how bad teams get frustrated when the match doesn't go the way they wanted. And New York did that. I mean, they're dominant home side. And Atlanta's, I don't know if it was the tactical discipline or Atlanta United came there specifically to break up their style of play. And when they had some success in the first 10 or 15 minutes, you really saw heads go down for New York. I think you kind of started to see them play the fake tough guy where they were committing fouls that were just helping Atlanta United kill the clock a little more and frustrate them even more. Where they were going down easily, trying to win free kicks and not getting the call. I mean, they really got themselves into their own heads and got out of their own game in a very, very early moment in the match. And again, that just speaks to the tactics of Atlanta United that you're able to throw a team off that's that good at home and take them out of their game for essentially the entire 90 minutes.
Yeah, NYCFC does not lose at home. Because I'm going to say it's because of their field, the way they play on
That's why they're that dominant. They're a good side as well. But
they've lost in last, I know the last 9 matches, well, 10 if you include the most recent one, they've lost twice, once to Atlanta United in the most recent match, the other time against New England. Again, that's in the last 10 matches. If you go back even further, you're looking at I think that's a preseason match against the LA Galaxy back in February, and that's the last time they lost at home. I mean, they don't lose at home.
14 wins, 1 loss, and 4 draws this year.
Atlanta United doesn't go to NYCFC and play well there, and they did that in the most clutch way possible. Get the 1-0 win and bring it back to Atlanta with the hopes of unleashing hell in the Bends.
Just broke their spirit, man, because it's not like they're coming back to Atlanta being like, well, we have some positives. We did create some chances in this way. You're thinking, my goodness, they came into our house where we lose to nobody, like you said, Eric, and took us off our game within 10 minutes.
The one thing I can nitpick, I think, is that, 2 things. One, the refereeing was kind of weird. I think David Villa shouldn't be playing in the second leg.
Well, he should have gotten a yellow, right?
At the very least.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that studs up to the abdomen of Garza, or the back of Garza, wherever it hit him. But I mean, that's as dangerous as they come. I don't know how it wasn't reviewed at the very least.
I loved Pro's, statement on that, where they were like, well, because they had the statement on the two things that happened, really, the Miggy disallowed goal, and then the second one, they go, and on the second incident, well, that one's a little more open to interpretation. And it's like, oh my God.
What they think,
why would you say that?
They also said that the correct call was made by they basically said it's up to the ref to be a yellow or a red. Yeah. That's why it didn't go to VAR. But he didn't show a yellow. He didn't show a card at all. So they didn't want to admit that maybe they were right about the red not being shown and the play not being reviewed. But they by saying it should have been a yellow or a red, they're saying
it's definitely
that your official got it wrong.
Yeah.
Because it should have at least been a yellow. A lot of times, I mean, you know what's bothered me about the inconsistency of administering yellow cards across the playoffs. One thing I heard a lot coming into the playoffs, and you saw this in a couple matches, was that referees will keep the yellow in their pocket because if you get 2 yellow cards, you're suspended for the next match on accumulation in the playoffs. So I've seen a lot of matches. One that comes to mind is the Portland-Dallas knockout match where Max Cerruti was fouled like 4 times in the first 20-25 minutes. The yellow didn't come out.
Oh, is that when he was doing the counting?
Yeah,
and everything?
yeah. And in a regular season match, I can't remember who the official was now. It's Ted Uncle, I can't remember, but the commentators said this is normal. He's keeping the yellows in his pocket because MLS has this really tough rule with yellow card accumulation in the playoffs. So I think that makes sense. But then you go and watch the NYCFC Atlanta match. Eric Remedi is getting a yellow for his first tactical foul. Tito Villalba's getting a bogus yellow for that slide tackle on the sidelines where he didn't make enough contact.
Joseph got a pretty well-deserved yellow.
Joseph's yellow was deserved. Which this is important. You know, you have to have some consistency. It's not fair to officiate one match, keeping the yellows in your pocket, and then turn around the next match. Because it's all a part of the postseason. And then turn around
the next problem
match.
You have different refs doing it is their version of whatever, keeping the cards in their pocket. It's all going to be different.
And there's a different version, but it's either everyone does this, and there's still going to be some subjectivity to it, or no one, or everybody, or no one does. And we've seen.
But these matches were officiated so differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the Remedi yellow, again, I can live with that because it's a tactical foul. There's no intent to play the ball. But when you go watch other playoff matches and you're seeing tactical fouls kind of allowed to slide in terms of being shown a caution, because referees want to keep the cards in their pocket for the playoffs, and yet it doesn't happen in this scenario. That's very frustrating.
Who was the one that committed the foul on LGP? It was just like he almost like took his legs.
Wasn't that Alex Ring?
I thought it was too. I thought that was a fine yellow. The Remedi yellow I can live with. The Villalba yellow, I was like, huh? He just came on. You just started the second half.
That's not a yellow anywhere. No. That's not a yellow.
Particularly for a player that just came on.
Like, yeah, you're right.
For as nitpicky as we are, if we're taking VAR and re-watching things and taking our time with that, I can't believe that would be a pleading of Garza that wasn't looked at again.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't know.
I'm sorry. I feel like anywhere else at any point in the season that would have been a straight red. At the very least a yellow.
I can go back and forth. I mean, the key, as we talked about all year, is consistency.
Yeah, that obviously would benefit us, so I'm a little biased. But
right. Well, the key is consistency, right? If you're not reviewing that type of challenge from VA, you can't review it anywhere, any match, at any time. And we've certainly seen that type of tackle go to review this season. I would also touch on the other. We didn't mention this on the radio show, the VAR calling back Almiron's goal as well.
Hold on, before you go there.
Sure.
I just want to read something that you had me put into the show notes here. You want to talk about NYCFC being little bitches.
Yes.
I like that.
Proceed.
Yes.
Well, they were being little bitches. And like
bottom line, they were being little bitches. Moving right along.
And this is when we talk about with Orlando, the ultimate, no disrespect to little bitches, but because they're like minuscule.
I was gonna say
word I can't say.
You might as well just change it to they were being Orlando.
Yeah, right. Orlando. Well, Orlando's enough an insult as in itself.
They were being little Will Johnsons.
Like I said, it was fake tough guy. It was fake tough guy. It was starting to come in with those crazy challenges that you're talking about, Eric. But that really just plays into Atlanta United's hands, and they completely backed down from the challenge physically, mentally, and I just thought they took themselves out of their game and became a desperate team, and basically did what losing sides do by putting their heads down and getting frustrated and starting to tense up and put pressure on themselves within 15 minutes. So when I say they're big little bitches, I don't mean diving or, or the dirty challenges or whatever. I mean that they were displaying a kind of faux toughness that wasn't there, and Atlanta United could see that, and they took advantage of it so quickly, and NYCFC was never able to get hold of them again because of that. Little bitches.
I stole this from.
I didn't know we could say that on here. So.
Well, it's a podcast. We can pretty much say whatever we want.
Oh man. Well, can we go back to those Orlando terms then? If we can say whatever we want.
Let's not get crazy, but I stole this from Soccer Down Here just because I happened to listen to it, and it's the perfect description of how Atlanta United played especially when it came to this faux toughness. The way Atlanta United played was very CONCACAF-y. They were ready for.
That's how you play tough the right way.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought, in terms of slowing the game down, and in terms of being able to settle everything, take NYCFC out of the match or out of their rhythm or out of their momentum, I thought that played well into that. If they play like that in CCL, I think they'll fit in just perfectly. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the VAR disallowed goal?
Well, I think
because here's the thing. I looked at it and I thought. I guess I'm fine with it, but I'm not fine with it. Because here's the thing. That, to me, the way we're discussing it now is not clear and obvious. And I think there's some VARs who are all about trying to get the right call, and there's other VARs that are trying to follow the rule by the letter of law, and if it's not clear and obvious, I'm going to move on real quick.
I'm very sad those of you watching on video can't see Josh's face, because when Eric said it wasn't clear and obvious, Josh gave the typical, just most smug little a head bob.
Did you eye roll?
I didn't, because I'm in kind of Eric's shoes where there's not
it might have been offside.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying there's not an angle there for me that gives you 100% certainty to overturn it.
I think it looks pretty clear. It's close.
But are you sure? Are you absolutely positive? There is no shadow of a doubt in your mind that he was offside.
Does the margin of error trigger a recount? I'm sorry, we should not.
Oh my! I trust that we only saw one angle. We've seen it.
So did well.
I trust that.
So did they.
I very much trust that.
If you're about to say you trust that pro got it right.
Well, I trusted that it was clear and obvious. They probably looked at it 20, 25 times. The issue to me is I don't think we're having this discussion if MLS hasn't bungled the communication to the TV and radio announcers.
Right.
Everyone thinks that they're reviewing the Lorentowicz. Well,
that's what everybody was freaking out about. Yeah.
Because at first I was infuriated, and then they finally showed that. What convinced me that the call was correct was when they overruled the goal, and then they showed Tata Martino talking to the fourth official on the sideline, laughing, saying, "Oh my God, I can't believe we were offside from that on the short corner, just because New York don't have someone on the post." But I thought it was clear and obvious. I thought it was absolutely offside.
I also think, though, it's just such a tic-tac thing, because him receiving the ball there for the moment that they called him offside had very little impact on
the finished product. It's like a 1 in a million situation, right? Because teams are almost always going to have someone on the post, so that little layoff from the short corner is always going to be onside.
Right.
But to be fair, you saw Sean Johnson after the goal was scored basically point to that corner and appeal for offside, although keepers will always do that.
Again, I'm not saying he wasn't offside. I can't definitively say he was offside based on that video.
What is the rule in terms of, because well, here's the thing, because in the NFL or in college football, in order to overturn something, there has to be indisputable visual evidence. That's not the case here. This is a judgment call, isn't it? I thought this was a judgment.
I think
clear and obvious to me means indisputable video evidence.
Clear and obvious. Well, because that's the thing. For it to be reviewed is one thing in terms of the qualifications for it to be reviewed, but even then, the official still looks at it and makes the final decision.
Yeah, which is stupid, by the way, with offside. I don't get that, because that's not a subjective call. But
no.
But I don't know. I don't know what you guys are looking at. You can clearly see on the replay as Gressel starts taking his foot off the ball.
The fact that we're having this discussion to me means the whole thing is not clear.
Well, it's not my fault that you guys are wrong.
Here, is he having a laugh?
It's not like they had the ability to graph the lines or anything like that right there in the middle. Maybe they did. I don't know. But
that's something I'd like to know, by the way. Do they have that?
Like a laser grid, like the Matrix? That'd be pretty.
Well, you see that on television broadcasts overseas, where you get kind of that
Yeah.
line that goes across.
I assume that they don't have that technology yet. And if they do, then great. Power to you. It was offside. Cool. But based off what we saw on video, what I assume they saw on video, I can't definitively say that he is offsides. Again, he may have been, but I can't definitively say based off that. And that's why he's going to VAR to double check. And if you are not absolutely 100% sure, you cannot overturn the call.
Well, here's what I think. I think that if MLS doesn't bungle the communication to the TV broadcast, and we're getting to watch that replay over and over again, I don't think we're having the same discussion right now.
I would agree.
I think this is an example of how MLS has bungled the replay process with their inability to communicate to the broadcast teams what's being reviewed. Because then, even if you make the right call, you look bad. You discredit your officials unnecessarily.
MLS has bungled, ... You could put a line.
Yeah, that's true, especially with refereeing stuff.
I'll give them credit being that it was a corner. They might have set up cameras specifically to catch the side view.
There may be things we weren't seeing.
Yeah, maybe they're because
they
again,
should tell us that
because of the communication between the official, basically the game and the TV booths and whatnot.
Wait, they should tell us that? They don't owe us anything, Josh. They don't have to disclose anything.
Maybe there's a camera that we're not seeing.
No, it's
that would give a better angle.
It's shocking to me that they can't get this part of it down. Like, if you're deciding something that's clear and obvious, you have to make it clear and obvious what you're at least looking at. And then after the match, you should come out and say, this is the angle our referee saw. This is why he made the decision. This is why he's correct. You know, if you watch leagues overseas and they go to VAR, they'll literally have a camera shot of the guys
looking
in the booth looking, and you can see exactly what they're looking at.
Well, the World Cup, they had the little videos of the dudes that are in the room or whatever.
And I think it's the Italian league. I think it's Serie A. I'm not totally sure, where you can actually see them in doing their work, pausing and stopping and starting. MLS doesn't have that type of transparency. And
they don't owe us transparency, Josh.
That's what they say. Well, they owe it to themselves because they look stupid every week, even when they make the right calls. And that's the real. They're doing themselves a disservice.
I mean, if you guys think the teams don't owe fans transparency, then why the hell does the league owe them transparency?
To be honest, neither of them owe transparency.
No, but I mean, again, it's about making yourself look legitimate. And in this scenario, I highly believe we're not having the discussion about whether the call is right or wrong. If you had properly communicated that you were reviewing that offside, so the viewers got to see it over and over again, the announcers got to discuss it over and over again, and if you came out after the match and said, this is the angle we saw, this was the right call. But that's, for whatever reason, doesn't happen with consistent MLS. It just continues to allow this entire system to be questioned in a way that it wouldn't be if they simply told us what they were doing.
I think transparency now would help a lot with the understanding. I think the overall issue is just the functionality and the way that the process just goes about in general.
And it seems
I think that if it were a better process, the transparency wouldn't be as necessary.
Sure, I agree with that.
I think we look for transparency now because it's such a messed up system, such a new system. It's such a system that's still kind of being worked through.
Well, why is MLS's version of it such crap? And the one we saw in the World Cup was good.
And there's no other league that I've seen. And you guys know,
I haven't watched
me. I have no life. I watch soccer all the time. I have absolutely no life. I have not seen. I have never seen the consistent. Every now and then, but I've never seen the consistent issues with figuring out what's being reviewed. And when you're reviewing the whole entire attacking phase of play, that can be hard to figure out in the booth. And like I said, I mean, it's not they owe it to be transparent. It's not an ethical thing. It helps them. It helps them if they were just transparent, not even be fully transparent. In just one part of the process, tell the announcers quickly what's being reviewed in a timely manner. Tell us after what angle you looked at. It helps your cause.
I think there's such an obsession with getting the call right that's a big focus on, as opposed to just, okay, it's clear and obvious. No, all right, let's move on.
I don't think that applies in this situation.
I do.
But that's clearly an issue, and that comes down to not with so much the decision being made ultimately, but what goes to review and what doesn't. There has to be consistency.
If you could completely eliminate, like right now, you're the czar of soccer, and you could completely eliminate VAR from existence, would you do it?
Absolutely not.
I would. Absolutely.
I'm kind of on the fence.
I'd rather go back to what we were doing.
You'll come around, Sam.
Well, no, it's not necessarily about like it's just right now. it feels like, and hopefully they get it right eventually, because right now it feels like we're slowing up the game. It's super clunky. There's just so many, you do a pros and cons list. Right now, the cons heavily outweigh the pros, but that's only because of bad execution.
And I think that's in particular in MLS, a league where the referees have struggled without the use of VAR. So I think it has more to do with MLS and pro not, for whatever reason, producing a high quality of officials, and that's something that we've heard Tata Martino.
They let Howard Webb run the whole thing. That can't help.
I know you're upset.
That dude let somebody kung fu kick a guy in the World Cup final.
I'd still take him over most of the MLS referees.
If he's gonna run pro, why don't you throw him out there and make him ref some games?
If the cons that upset you about VAR are makes the game slower, takes out the emotion, I totally accept that. That's never going to change.
That's what soccer needs.
I respect that stance. But I think the stuff about getting stuff right or wrong is overblown. I think it's absolutely from a standpoint of getting things right. I think it's done wonders for the game. And just look at what happened in the Champions League today with the ridiculous penalty award to Manchester City, where Raheem Sterling kicked himself and fell over in the box and received a penalty. Look at some of the important goals that have happened in Premier League. I mean, you're going to have titles decided by missed calls when there's already a system in place where you can change that. Now, if you are cool with that happening because you don't want the game to slow down and you like the finality of goals and things like that, cool. I respect that. But if you're going to come at me and tell me they're getting more calls wrong now than before, this is making the officiating worse, you're incorrect. And
I just think that the qualifications for VAR need to be more egregious. Like, the thing is, like, for
I think that's an MLS problem.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying I think for so VAR in Italy or VAR in Germany or wherever else.
Spain,
do you think
Turkey?
Do you think Almiron's goal gets overturned?
Yes, 100%.
So you think they go to? You think that's egregious? You think it was egregious enough to where they would have gone to VAR?
Yeah, I mean, he's offside.
In the World Cup, I think I can't tell.
I'm posting hella screenshots.
But see, your screenshots after the fact are fine, but in the moment,
screenshots are fine
after the fact. Sure. Yeah. But in the moment where you don't know if it's
visual evidence.
But that's what they were looking at. I mean, this is offside, right? I mean, he was off. He's off.
Like, again, from the camera angle we saw, you can't tell without a shred of doubt. You cannot tell.
Well, like two moments this year got ruined for me by VAR. That one and Nagby's goal that got disallowed. And I get it was the right call, but still.
Well, I accept that argument. I will always accept that, and we'll just always have to agree to disagree.
Well, he's just a fan of the game in general. Miguel Almiron's goal was awesome against NYCFC, and it's like it just completely.
People make the same arguments in NFL. When they review all scoring plays, I accept that. If you think it takes away from the emotion of the game.
Well, we also have the NFL's had issues in terms of they can't even define like what a catch is. So with VAR, I mean, they're having those same kind of problems in terms of not being able to determine what is and isn't VAR.
But other than that, Atlanta United played very well, and again, that could have been a demoralizing moment where you think you have the lead and you don't have it, and yet Atlanta United come right back out and continue to play the matches they had been, and because of that response is the reason you leave Yankee Stadium with a 1-0 coming home this Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and speaking of coming home this Sunday, it looks like it's definitely going to be at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's not a question.
Thanks.
Definitely going to be on a bigger pitch, and I don't know. I started that sentence the wrong way, and I just kind of.
It's official. It's at
Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Yeah.
5:30 start. Pushed forward.
They pushed it back.
It was 5:30 now.
Yes, because I've got a Georgia women's basketball game at 2 that I've got to work. It should be over at 4. I'm going to be racing like a bat out of hell from Athens to get there. So thank God that they pushed it back 30 minutes. That helps out your boy tremendously.
Atlanta United, obviously a bigger pitch at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so you wonder how that's going to affect not only the tactics but the formation that Tata Martino decides to implement. Also, you've got a NYCFC that has a score and has the win, and they are going to be presumably coming at Atlanta United quickly, often, and trying to score those goals in order to advance in the next round. I think that actually helps Atlanta United because I think where they excel is. Well, theoretically, when they excel is when players or when space opens up in the middle, everywhere across the field. They'll be able to play Bijanba over the top. They can play Joseph over the top. They can play Mickey in the middle. They can play Gressel or Escobar or Garza down the wings. and that's gonna spread NYCFC out. I think that's gonna be key for Atlanta United. They can get one goal early, even if they don't get a goal early. NYCFC still has a score. They got to find a way to put one in the back of the net, and that by itself is just going to. I gotta think that's going to lead to a lot of Atlanta United chances.
So I think you basically have 3 options in terms of how you want to set up tactically going into this match. You can do what you did in New York. You can play the 5-3-2, defense first, hold on to the lead, get forward and counter. What I predict is we'll see the 3-5-2, which we've mostly seen throughout the season, which is a back 3. We talked about it all year. Back 3 that morphs into a back 5, as opposed to the back 5 that morphed into a back 3 that we saw over the weekend. You can do that as well. And then that enables you to play a Julian Gressel on the right, who's a huge player at right wing back in terms of starting the counter and finding that final ball. I think also the other option is you go back to 4 in the back, which is Tata Martino's preferred formation, although it hasn't, I think, been Atlanta's most effective one this season. But you go back to the 4 in the back formation, 4-2-3-1, and you high press, and you really, really go for it and look for that early goal. So those are your 3 options. You do the same thing you did in New York, play that 5 across the back, super defensive, conservative. You play 3 across the back, which can turn into 5 across the back when you want, look to soak up pressure and counter, or you kind of go to Tata Martino's bread and butter in the 4-2-3-1 and high press the crap out of NYCFC and try to take the game to them.
You don't want to play at 8-1-1?
8-1-1.
Yeah, and just kind of throw it back there.
Just park that bus, man.
No, I mean, I think that Atlanta United are totally going to, try because NYCFC have to go for it. So this is playing right into Atlanta United's
Absolutely.
hand. And I think that they're going to go for it, and they'll get caught out at some point in the matter of for Atlanta United if they can finish their chances, because they will have chances.
There will definitely be chances, and I think the question is, do you look to exploit New York by just beating them, taking them off the ball, high pressing them, or do you look to score that goal by absorbing the pressure and looking to get forward on the counterattack? That's kind of the fundamental question of tactically of what Tata Martino is going to do.
See, I have a feeling it's going to look very much like a traditional Atlanta United game where they absorb some pressure, try to press you in the midfield, take the ball away from you, and push Joseph Martinez or Bijanba or whoever's up top on the other end. I think that's good. It's just going to be the traditional Atlanta United we've seen in the past throughout the season, just because of how forward NYCFC is going to have to be. Now,
hopefully it's not the Atlanta United we saw in the past, in terms of the past being the game against Toronto.
Yeah, positive tradition.
Well, here's the thing too about that. It's like the last time Atlanta United played the biggest game in their history was a few weeks ago, and they got embarrassed at Toronto. Now this is the biggest game in their club history. Let's just hope there's not a repeat performance. I don't see that happening, because look, this environment is going to be the craziest environment I think we've probably seen, just because look, it's a high elimination playoff game. I know we had one of those last year, but this is further on into the playoffs. So I think it's going to be a nuts atmosphere. I'm really looking forward to seeing the crowd and how crazy they get into it and how kind of the Gulch sets up.
I'm glad you brought up the atmosphere, because this is definitely the type of match where I think the crowd can make a difference. When you consider, obviously, the situation you're in already with a lead coming home, but also that New York are not a good team away from home. I think it's 4 wins, 9 losses, 4 draws on the year. And Eric, as you mentioned, have been really poor on the road over the last several months. So, the crowd plays a big factor in bringing out that little bitch that we saw from New York. The crowd will play a big factor, I think, in getting them frustrated. So I'm glad you brought the atmosphere, Sam, because this is one of, crowd's great, but I'm always about the players on the pitch deciding things. But I think the magnitude of this match, the way it sets up, and the fact that you're playing a team that clearly has gotten shook on the road in much lesser environments really lends itself to the crowd playing a role. So get drunk in the Gulch, come tailgate with me. I think we'll get up there like 1 p.m. Shoot me a DM on Twitter or something.
Slide into Josh's DM.
Let's get wild and provide that atmosphere.
Would you say that there will be some wild and crazy kids?
Wild and not kids. No kids are allowed at our tailgate.
Kids at heart.
Oh yeah, well we all are. That's why I'm getting drunk and going to a soccer game.
The last 15 matches, I think NYCFC has lost 1, 2 matches. So they struggle at home, and I think it has a lot to do with
on the road. You mean?
Yeah, on the road. Sorry. I think it has a lot to do with again how much space they have to play into on these bigger fields.
I
think the spacing is going to be huge. I really do.
It's like New York they tailor so much of their match. They clearly practice so much on how to play and win at Yankee
Did
Stadium.
you happen to see the Philadelphia Union? Well, I don't know who tweeted it out, but someone, I guess when Union played NYC, was it NYCFC? Yeah,
In the knockouts.
They did a comparison of the Union, I guess, practice field, and with the lines drawn out for NYCFC for Yankee Stadium, and how much different it was. You didn't see that?
I know I didn't see the image, but I know they practiced on a pitch of the same dimensions.
It's embarrassing how small that field.
Well, you know, NYCFC's got something to worry about too. Like if they were to get past Atlanta United, I know that Syracuse and Notre Dame play each other in football at Yankee Stadium. So football lines.
Another situation there, huh? We just saw Seattle have to move their home matchup to Thursday.
Seattle had to move it for a car show.
Who was the game this weekend that they stopped being thrown on the field?
LAFC.
I'm not saying I want that.
No.
I don't want things thrown on the field. But I want that ruckus environment.
Right. Throwing stuff on the field is the NYCFC little bitch fan equivalent, right? It means, yeah, I'm so frustrated. I'm going to start throwing stuff. When that happens, as we saw when Atlanta United went to Orlando and the fans started throwing things, that means the road team's doing their job, right? I mean, you couldn't give a road team a better break, first of all, that literally giving them a break because the game has to stop, and also letting them know that you're frustrated and off your game as a fan.
Two things I want to see. I want to see Joseph Martinez get 2 goals in this next match. The other thing I want to see is the top half of the supporter section. You guys got to get it together, man. And ladies.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
They're just not as into it as the lower part.
You guys have got to get it together.
What's the key? Do you think they need a capo higher up?
I don't really know. Look, I sat there at the last home game. I think it was the last home
game.
And I wanted to get involved. I wanted to be immersed in the supporter section fandom and all that stuff. And it just at the top of the supporter section, that was not where it was happening. I'll tell you that much.
So you didn't get away with a flag?
I didn't get away with a flag. To be honest, I didn't care about the flags too much. I hadn't had firsthand experience with the flags. I didn't seem to bother me all that much. But the top of the supporter section, and I'm sure the supporter section themselves would agree with me. You gotta get together and be in unison with everyone else. Just do something. Don't do your own thing, but at least try to act like you're part of the supporter section. Don't just stand there and watch the action happen.
Yeah, that's right.
I will say if you're going to the game on Sunday, unfortunately I will not be, but if you're going to the game on Sunday, be as loud as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be loud. Boo the ref every opportunity you can. Make it crazy. Make it so that NYCFC can't hear themselves. Make it so that they are just dysfunctional when it comes to playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Make Mercedes-Benz Stadium its own monster to play in.
I'm a little upset I'll be in the press box for this one because, being down with my dad's tickets on the field level, it's always fun yelling at the refs, but this would have been a chance to yell at Geiger, man. That would have been so fun.
Oh, man. The ref, well, before we get into the referee stuff, is there anything match-wise that we should address? Eric just left the room.
So he wouldn't turn the light back on.
Okay.
I tried to give us a lantern here with my phone light. I didn't really do anything.
Maybe he'll give us some more great top of the supporter section stuff, real topical stuff.
Oh yeah.
Let's just get into him before he comes back into the room. He's gonna listen to this back and be like, "What?" But
are talking crap about me?
Oh hey, Eric, Eric's back. We wanted we're gonna get into the Geiger stuff, but we're trying to think. Is there any match-specific stuff we haven't hit yet? I think New York, obviously, you come out. I don't know enough about them tactically to know if they changed the shape, but they're a team that kind of played the same way all year.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to change anything just because I think they're going to be asked to run across more distance just because of the width of the field. But I don't know that changes their style of play. I think they're going to still try to press. I think they're still going to try to play quick up the field. I think they're going to look for David Villa up top. They're going to be sound defensively, but again, how how spread out they get because of the size of the field, that's obviously going to play a factor. I think I don't know. This has an Atlanta win written all over.
I agree.
I don't want to guarantee it or anything like that, but there's a recipe that this match. How do I phrase this? There's a certain way this match seems like it's going to go, and it just seems that it's going to be Atlanta United kind of, I don't want to say walking all over NYCFC, but Because again, they have played to a 2-2 draw in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, so it's not like NYCFC can't pull a good performance out of, they can pull good performance when they need to. But this NYCFC and the way we kind of handled them in their own stadium, that to me told me so much about Atlanta United, how their mindset going into this playoffs, and potentially what they could do at home. And that to me is the game changer. You add Miggy, you add possibly Bijalba up top. If you do 5-3-2 or 3-5-2 or whatever, you're looking at a team that is going to have a great defensive shape and going to have people flying up the field whenever they're in the attack. So
what throws that out the window, though? An early NYCFC goal. Then
that does change a lot.
That's something we haven't talked about, because then if you're Atlanta United,
you've got to go.
Yeah, and it'll be, and also will New York, if they score early, will they have a contingency plan built in to say, okay, now we're going to sit back a little bit and play a little more defensively? I would imagine they do that. Maybe they're a little more slow tempo, more patient with their possession play. So again, I mean, this is.
I think the game gets real stalemate-ish if NYCFC scores early.
Yeah, maybe so. I mean, a second leg, for those that haven't watched, I mean, the tactical aspects of it are huge, in that one goal can change things so much that New York are going to come in talking all week about we have to attack and get back in this. But they score in the first 5 minutes, then Atlanta United will say, we're at home, we want to attack, and New York maybe sit back and play a little more conservative.
First 15 minutes, would you want to sit back or do you want to take it to
this is the big question. So
what would you do, and then what do you think Tata's
I mean, this is why I love the 3-5-2, because it's a combination of both. You're able to soak up pressure, but you're also able to get forward and play direct and look very, very dangerous on the counter. So for me, I think 3-5-2 provides you that balance that you got from the 5-3-2 on the road. You get that balance with the 3-5-2 at home. We're a little more confident, not playing on a U7 pitch, et cetera, et cetera. So I think who knows?
5.
But
I was watching some DDY U5 soccer this week.
You should come watch my U9s play. Let me tell you, tiki taka.
They play over the DDY. My nephew is playing over at the fields near Avondale.
Avondale Donaire.
Yeah, man, dude, the NYCFC would be lucky to have a field that big.
So what do you? I think we agree, yeah. 3-5-2.
I think you 3-5-2 sit back, or not sit back, but you know what I mean. Absorb, count.
Yeah,
absorb,
and that's going to be so you're conservative, but much less conservative than you were in New York playing 5.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. I would do what you're talking about, and then Tata's gonna be like, nope, we're gonna take it to him.
4-2-3-1.
I know. I think he can sit in 3-5-2, but I think
just press a little more.
I think he's going to press higher at the field. I think first 15 minutes he's going to ask his team to score.
That I don't have a problem with,
because that's what he's.
So you're saying they should go into this game with the mentality that I was saying they should have gone last game. Go for an early goal, and if you get it, drop back.
I don't even think they're going to drop back. I think they're going to try to take him out of the game within the first half.
I don't think you're giving enough credit to Tata's tactical thought process, because again, any manager worth their salt is going to realize, especially if you get a goal early, pressing is just pointless, because you want to sit back, absorb, and strike, like counter, and not necessarily leave yourself exposed.
It's not so much pressing; it's just going. It's just. I think he's going to ask his team to attack as if it were basically a normal regular season game. I think he's confident in his team's defensive abilities at home, that he isn't so much worried about conceding a goal. He's, I think, more worried about how many goals he can score and kind of take NYCFC out of this game before, basically take him out of the game at some point during the match. I wouldn't do that. But I think Tata, based on what he's told us all the time, is that we play a certain way. This is the way we play. We're not going to change that. I don't expect him to be any different in the playoffs. I understand that maybe that's not the wisest thing to do. Maybe that's not the most tactically sound thing to do in this type of environment. But we also haven't seen Tata in this type of environment. Yeah, but we saw a great performance and a great tactical setup against NYCFC in New York, and that's a whole different monster because of the size of the field.
I think it was a little more micro. The tactics were a little more micromanaged.
Right. I think in Atlanta, at home, in a comfortable environment, they can play more to their liking or to what they want to play like, and that would be pressing in the middle of the field, pressing up high. Yeah. I'm not saying they're going to be like, all right, Gressel, Escobar, whoever, all the way up the field. Let's get the ball in the final third and go from there. But I think you're going to see you're not going to see him park the bus.
I think it would be a mistake to go in with a similarly conservative outlook that you had in New York. I think. I
don't want to see that again.
You want to see a little more positive, and like I said, that's why 3-5-2 is a great option because it's the best of both worlds. It's been your best defensive formation, and it's a great counterattacking formation against the side that's going to have to commit bodies forward. That's going to be exposed at the back.
Are we talking? Who do we leave off the? I assume Barco's on the bench.
Yeah.
And then if you're playing,
so we just go front to back.
Yeah, do it.
So I should say back to front.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think we know that Joseph, Miggy, and
right.
Probably Tito.
Hildebrand in goal, right?
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
So Guzan in goal, assuming all goes well.
Is Alex Tambaki still?
Yeah, still back. Yeah.
I miss Alex.
Can we get Justin Garces in from UCLA, the academy product? Anyways, we're really wasting time. But so yeah, Guzan in the back. We're assuming 3. So obviously Parker's Perez. Then your question is Laurentowicz your third center back, or is Escobar your third center back at the right center back?
I'd say Escobar, just because he seems more comfortable. If you're putting up for conversation,
yeah,
he seems more comfortable when his role is limited to defending more than going forward.
Okay.
When he does go forward, it's not that he's terrible at it. He's not the greatest at it, but he's better and looks more comfortable when he's playing more of the center back role, when he's focused more on defending and distributing rather than having to bump forward.
I don't necessarily know if Tito starts, just kind of thinking about the way that he looked, maybe still recovering from injury. I think Miggy definitely starts. So I think it's kind of in the middle. I think it's all dependent on, because I would agree. I think you're back. I'll say back 5, even though it's a 3-5-2 with wing backs. Yeah. I mean, I think you're going Garza, LGP, Parkhurst, Escobar, Gressel.
So we're all on the same page there. And I think the reason you have to play Escobar at right center back is you are playing a very attacking wing back in Julian Gressel. And Escobar is a guy, a little more pace than a Jeff Laurentowicz. That right center back spot, you're going to get in isolated positions because of Julian Gressel going forward. And he's better equipped to handle that at right center back than Laurentowicz is.
Jeff the odd man out here?
That's the question.
I mean, because I feel like Rometty, here's the thing, though. If Tito doesn't start, then I think you push Nagbe out kind of like you did last week where he was kind of playing a little bit rover, kind of a little further out. And you would have Laurentowicz and Rometty as the center mids. If you don't put in, if Tito plays or starts, then I would assume that Laurentowicz may be on the bench. And you have Rometty and the Nagbe in the middle, and then Almiron.
So that's your other question. Like we said, we're going to go through the 11, but really there are only a few spots where it's truly contested, and I think one of it is through the middle. So for me, I would do what you just said, Sam. I would go Rometty, Laurentowicz, let Rometty play with a little more freedom than he did in New York. Nagbe as my 3 centers, center mids with Almiron underneath Joseph up top. But I'm interested to hear you guys' thoughts because
so no Tito in your start.
For me, no Tito. Yeah, not looking sharp, and I think a good weapon off the bench. But it's a big question, though, center midfield 3. I mean, if you play Laurentowicz and Rometty, you do run the risk of playing a little bit too negatively, maybe, and not being able to dominate going forward.
If Tito's not available, I'm cool playing.
Well, I think he'll be available.
I mean, I'm saying if he doesn't start, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm cool playing Rometty, Nagbe, and Laurentowicz.
Well, we just want your personal opinion, guys. You don't have to give.
I think Tito's going to go with the people that got him here, though. Now that I think about it, I mean, Tata. I think Tata's going to stick with that. I mean, that's why I think Tito. That one's so hard. I mean, does he start or doesn't he start? I think is the biggest point of contention for me.
So let's say Tito starts underneath. Almiron obviously is going to play as your highest center midfielder. Are you guys going? Who's the odd man out between Rometty, Laurentowicz, and Nagbe?
Laurentowicz.
Yeah.
I think so, too. And I think we saw...
Well, Laurentowicz early, but like in the second half, say you do get that 1-goal lead.
Exactly.
He's perfect to bring in to just clog up.
And that's what we saw happen against Chicago Fire, the second-to-last home match of the season, with Laurentowicz come off the bench, solidify the space in front of the back four, and he did that quite well. So
I don't know. That's tough. See, this is why I think Tito 1 is not going to play because of specifically that. So I think that the ability of Laurentowicz to be able to drop back into back 4 if necessary, whenever the two wingers are pushed up.
Yeah.
I think that to Tata is gold.
Absolutely.
His ability to play center back like that is gold.
And then you can have Perez cover down the left. You can have Escobar cover down the right. That's a great point, especially in a match where you're going to get erring on the side of defense.
You're going to have to keep an eye on David Villa. You're going to have to keep an eye on just a ton of attack from NYCFC. I think that is more the way to go. Look, if you're going to play, if you're going to have both in mind, both playing defensive and not conceding a goal, and also in the attack, you've got weapons. In Gressel, Escobar, Garza. No, not Escobar. Sorry, Gressel, Garza, Almiron. You have Joseph Martinez up top. You could also throw a Nagby in there, and that's fine. And then if that doesn't work, which I think it would, if that doesn't if that doesn't receive results, then you can throw in Tito for the second half, throw in a Barco later in the second half, and then you've got more movement. It all depends on what happens in this match, though, because if NYCFC scores first, then that's a whole different ballgame. I fully believe that Atlanta United is going to come out in at least mentally playing the same way they played all year, minus the last month or so, and try to get the first goal, if not two.
I agree.
I don't think they're gonna.
I don't agree with that.
There's no way they're parking the bus. There's no way they're parking.
I wouldn't say they're going to park the bus, and I don't agree that they're just going to go right from the opening, kickoff and just go. I think they're going to feel out what New York's doing, and because that's the thing, they're the ones with the advantage, so they can just kind of sit back and first and be like, it's your move. Tata's looking across the touchline there or whatever, looking at the other bench. He's like, hey, we're going to see what you're doing, and we're going to react to that.
And it may just be pressing hard in the midfield. It might not be all the way up into the final third, but I think you're gonna see a lot of pressure. I think you're gonna see a lot of attempts to, essentially go the other way real quick.
When we've seen Laurentowicz and Remedi kind of pair in front of the back four, Remedi has had all kinds of freedom to get high in the high press because Laurentowicz is such a disciplined player positionally. So certainly you have the tools available to do what you're saying, Eric, and really put pressure on the NYCFC back line with high pressure.
All right, one of the potential obstacles for Atlanta United or NYCFC, depending on who you are and how you look at it, is Mr. Official Mark Geiger.
Oh, God.
Dope.
How did I not know that you were going to say that?
And, did you not know I was going there?
I knew we were going to talk about Geiger. You guys start.
This is overblown.
With your erroneous fan.
No, I'm not even going to say. I think that it's a little overblown in the sense that, look, it doesn't matter who the ref's going to be. I mean, I think Geiger. Look, there's a reason that he got chosen to be an official at the World Cup. I mean, obviously, I think that the numbers, and Josh will probably break this down for you a little more here in a second, but what everything the data tells you is that he's a good official. He has had a lot of standout moments, and I think that's why, because on high-profile stages, he's had disagreements with high-profile players and high-profile coaches, and Tata, as an example of that, has thrown Geiger under the bus before. So I think that you just have a tendency to get a little defensive or whatever when somebody so look, it doesn't matter. Refs are refs.
Eric,
I'm
gonna go last. Save the best for last.
I don't like him. I think there's too much controversy that follows him getting
I'll agree with
match. I'm not saying that he's necessarily doing anything wrong. You look at the times that he's officiated Atlanta United matches. You've got the what are the instances? You got the Nagby overturn.
Well, the two controversial ones are the Sporting Kansas City match where there was the big controversy about whether Jimmy Madranda played the ball intentionally or not, leading to a goal that was later disallowed for offside. Geiger was the center on that one and went and made a call. And then the Joseph Martinez disallowed goal against New York Red Bulls, where he was judged to have clipped Aaron Long from behind. Tim Long.
And he did, didn't he?
And I mean, I think he did. It was very close, very controversial. He was the VAR for that.
I remember that one. Yeah.
The official, Chris Penso was the official.
The other one was the center. The Nagby disallowed goal, right? Where he was interfering with.
Right, I had actually forgotten about that one because that was such a cut. And
see, to me, all those for the most part were good calls on his part, and
I thought you guys don't like
both MLS replay. It's I don't like the controversy that seems to just kind of follow him match to match. That's what I don't like. That's why I wouldn't want him officiating this game, because for some reason things just happen while he's officiating matches.
I'll agree with that, but I don't think him being the official is like some huge detriment, because look, both teams have to deal with the ref.
I mean, if you look at Facebook and all the Atlanta United groups, you'd think that posting the official list of the officials for the match is the new I vote sticker.
That's always like
or I voted sticker. That I saw it everywhere. I'm like, guys, relax. He's not. No one's out to get Atlanta United. No one's out to get NYCFC. No one's out to get a specific team. If anything, they want Atlanta United to win. It's a great story. It's a great show of the league to see Tata Martino lead the league with a trophy. They probably want Atlanta United to win.
Or at least go deep. I mean.
Oh, at least go deep, sure.
Yeah. I mean,
there's no conspiracy against any team or anything like that. These are just refs that sometimes are put in tough situations, and sometimes they get it wrong. But they're not actively trying to, create some kind of controversy or some kind of conspiracy against any specific team. I think it's ludicrous.
I think so. You guys got to start here, right? If you think Mark Geiger is out to get Atlanta United, I don't
really know what to tell you that.
Like I said, I'm not going to argue math with someone that says 1 + 1 is 3. It's a waste of my time. So what I will say, let me take it a step further, though.
I think it gets a bad rap because of what happened with Panama.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to.
And the few instances with Atlanta United and Mark Geiger. So, but I see, I'm the one that sits here and looks at Mark Geiger and thinks those instances, okay, those were in the end good calls.
Yeah, so let's go through the Mark Geiger stuff, because I think the reason Atlanta United fans always point to him as such a bad official is several reasons, and it all just has to do with predisposed biases and nothing to do with which calls are right or wrong. And one of the reasons is, and you guys talk about bold, big calls he made. That Mexico-Panama Gold Cup match in the Georgia Dome in 2015 was officiated by Mark Geiger. Lots of Atlanta people remember that because so many were at that match. Made a very controversial handball on Torres, actually the Seattle center back. Late in the match, Mexico gets a penalty forcing extra time. There was also a red card given to Panama on that match, and Mexico ended up winning. So Atlanta United fans already remember this Mark Geiger guy and like you said, Eric, the calls were correct, but it was controversial, bold, very bold decision.
At the time, there's a lot of emotions going into it, and that had a big part. You're kidding yourself if you think that didn't have a big part in why fans of Atlanta United or whatever team he happens to be officiating, why the emotion behind it is a big reason why you don't like.
And you guys might remember after that match, Panama unveiled a banner in their locker rooms stating that CONCACAF was corrupt. It was like a big to do about it. Then obviously we have the two instances this year, which we just discussed on VAR from Geiger. One where he was the video assistant referee, one where he went over to the TV screen and made a decision in the case of the Sporting Kansas City offsides. Both calls were later judged to be right. And I think, I'll take one step further. I think Mark Geiger is the best referee in MLS. I think he's one of the best referees in CONCACAF. And he gets a lot of crap from Atlanta United fans because he's made two difficult calls that went against Atlanta United, and Atlanta fans remember him from that game in the Dome. There is absolutely no rational critique of him as this terrible official. And if there was, why did FIFA select him to go to the World Cup? Why did they select him to referee a round of 16 match when they were sending up other referees home that were having poor performances? Why was he the head VAR at the third place match? I think you look at those exact calls against Sporting Kansas City and New York Red Bulls, FIFA looked at that and said, this guy gets it. We need him to run our VAR for big matches, and we need him in the center of the pitch because he's not afraid to make a big call. Mark Geiger, good referee. Maybe you don't agree with his style, a bit brazen at times, sometimes makes himself the center of attention, but a good referee, and I challenge you to prove me wrong based on actual missed calls. Because there aren't that many of them, and if there were, he wouldn't be refereeing the last two World Cups. Simple as that.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I said, too. I mean, the guy's a World Cup official.
Yeah. You guys, I was kind of hoping one of you was going to have one of the...
I thought Sam was going to do that.
I thought Sam was going to be like, Geiger hates Atlanta United, but unfortunately, you guys had a rational viewpoint. I'm going to take this step
I'm not always irrational.
I know. Well, sometimes you disappoint me, Sam. I was hoping you're going to have...
I will say, look, I don't like him. I don't like the fact that he's officiating this game because stuff just happens to find him. Like, weird stuff happens to find him. But again, I'm not saying he's a bad referee.
Let me take the other side of that. I think that it's not that stuff finds him, it's that he's a referee who is not afraid at all to make the big call. And we talk about that handball late in the Mexico match, which was just really, I mean, it's hard. Go back and watch the replay. It hits Torres' hand. It's really unlucky. He's down on the ground and his hand's extended and the ball just happens to hit his hand.
There was a couple of...
He wasn't afraid to make that call.
But here's the thing. I think there was a lot, and I don't know how new of a ref he is, but at that stage, there's...
Geiger's been around.
No, I know, not
quite
Geiger.
some time.
But I think a lot of that had to do with how he officiated the game leading up to that moment. I think that had a bigger part of why he had to kind of run away from the Panamanian players as they were rushing the field, because of maybe that match he did make some bad decisions throughout the course of the game, and it kind of the pinnacle of all that was the handball, and that to the Panamanians like, right, we're done.
Sure. And you know, another reason, and again, this is how context can kind of impact our judgment of whether a call is actually right or wrong, was that if you go back to that tournament in 2015, Mexico had just advanced out of the previous round against Costa Rica by drawing a penalty late in stoppage time, which was a clear dive that the official fell for. So there was already kind of this narrative of that Gold Cup that, which was of course wrong, that CONCACAF was fixing matches for Mexico, and lo and behold, the very next match you get a big handball in stoppage time to keep Mexico alive. So again, the context surrounding these events and the biases of fans are affecting people's opinions of Mark Geiger, who, by all accounts, is the best referee in MLS. He refereed in the knockout stage of the last 2 World Cups. No one else in the league did.
I will say, without bias, sports would be very boring.
Absolutely. That's why we're having so much fun discussing this.
I don't want the controversy on Sunday.
It doesn't mean you're right. That's all I'm going to say.
The last thing I'd say
is right and wrong is overrated.
The last thing I'd say as well is that when it comes to the Atlanta things that Mark Geiger has been a part of when it comes to his officiating, I have not seen anywhere else yet where anyone outside of Atlanta thinks that those calls were wrong.
That's all I'm saying. So, you know, if people want to get into about this stuff.
If you can separate, the fandom, and I'm not saying that you're too emotional or irrational, whatever, but if you can separate the fandom a little bit from the objective nature of officiating, you can see that sometimes the emotion does cloud a bit of what you're looking at. But again, on Sunday, be as emotional as you want. I don't care.
Oh, during the game, you got to go after.
Loud and proud.
I'll be going after.
Rowdy and whatever you want to do, do it. Just
dare I say, be rowdy and proud.
Don't throw things on the field.
Where'd you get that from, Sam?
Just kind of came to me.
All right. A couple of quick things that we also want to mention. Nagby and Brad Guzan going to England and Italy to play for the U.S. men's national team.
Horrible.
Really don't want them to get hurt. I don't understand why Guzan is going. I can understand a little bit if there's a lot of young players playing. I think the U.S. men's national team thinks that Nagby is going to be part of the
like a mentor.
Yeah, World Cup cycle. So you'd obviously want Nagby to get more accustomed to playing against some of these younger guys, different play styles than the previous players in the last World Cup cycle. So I can understand that. You definitely don't want to see him get hurt. These are games that are happening on the 15th and the 20th, if I'm not mistaken, and the actual next round of the playoffs would be on the 25th, I believe. Are you looking at it, Josh?
Yeah, that is correct. Okay. And it goes it'll be I think a Sunday, Thursday, or something of that nature. The 2 legs of that round. So.
But hopefully nothing happens. They don't get hurt. That's really the only thing I care about. I don't care about the result. They're meaningless games. They're just the hope is that they're going to throw out new young players in there to again get more accustomed to playing with each other to prepare for the next World Cup cycle. Other thing that I thought was even more interesting than this one was rumors about the Mexican the Mexico national team job. Yeah, Quique Sanchez Flores in London meeting with the Mexican Federation, which would lead me to believe that nothing is set with Tata. And to throw a little wrench into that whole thing, you did see him post-game talking to the FS1 people in English, or he tried to say some stuff in broken English, which I don't know if that led me to believe that maybe he's showing the people with the U.S. men's national team, Arnie Stewart, that maybe he does speak a little bit of English.
I got
enough to coach the U.S. men's national team.
Ernie Stewart. Long play.
That's forwards, right? Or is long play one?
Long play is one.
That's disappointing.
Challenge.
You disappointed me again.
But
okay.
Ernie Stewart threw that thing out there, that horribly ridiculous quote, speaking English primarily is a requirement. Maybe it's not, or maybe Tata knows a little more than he's leading on.
Yeah.
Maybe Ernie Stewart did this whole thing to troll Mexico. What if this was just a troll job from Ernie Stewart and Tata from the beginning? To troll Mexico.
That's right. U.S. soccer has suddenly become smart in the last.
I will say, that's very unlikely.
It's a bad move to have this leak out for the Mexican Federation, just because what was the number we saw associated with Tata, like $5.5 million?
Mhm.
It was like he was going to be one of the highest paid.
It's probably going to have to be around that to take anyone
big
else.
money. And one other,
They know you're willing to spend that money. They're going to ask for that money.
other little interesting, I think, point today. It was reported today that Mexico's director of the national team, Dennis de Closet, I know I didn't pronounce that right. I'm sorry, guys. Dennis de Closet or something.
How dare you?
Who was the head of the director of the national teams in Mexico, and was, if we remember this, there was the story about Tata Martino's representatives and I think Darren Eales meeting with this guy for dinner in Nashville. That was like a big rumor, was that this guy was at the table and they were saying, oh, if Tata Martino, if de Closet and Darren Eales are at the same table, Mexico must be serious. Well, now we're hearing that the LA Galaxy are interested in hiring him as his head of soccer operations. So if this was your guy kind of going after Tata Martino and now he might be moving on, maybe you're looking at other candidates as well. So a lot of moving pieces here. And the main thing to take away is, as we said, Tata Martino is leaving, but we're not going to believe the Mexico stuff until we see it official.
I think the main thing you have to take from all of this is that nothing anyone says is ever official.
Yeah. Well, I heard, Eric, do you think he might stay? What a shock!
Oh,
what a shock! You saw the face.
I'll throw this in there. I wouldn't be surprised.
Eric chased Tata out, by the way. Just so
maybe he wasn't happy. Not happy, but maybe he thought he could do better in terms of contracts, and so he said, "I'm going to decline the contract." Well, no, because he did say that he wasn't going to continue.
The thing is, getting an official statement from the club is that.
I was trying to work it to where I could keep Tata and then not have to eat poop or something.
People change their mind.
The Tata Martino side of things is very interesting. It doesn't really have to do with Atlanta United anymore, but it's very, very interesting to see what Mexico's going to do. Is he looking at Argentina? Is Colombia in the mix?
Anyone but Mexico. I don't care who you go to. I'd still root for Tata, the person. Mm-hmm. If you went to Mexico,
I would walk back a lot of my rhetoric from a few weeks ago if he doesn't go to Mexico.
It'll be interesting. I mean, that's another kind of side of stories, like I said, but really fascinating to see what happens with Tata.
Ideally, U.S. men's national team, that would be fantastic. Imagine watching what you see with Atlanta United and seeing that play out in the national stage.
And one thing the U.S.
It's fun to watch, especially with the young players.
Yeah.
He gets the best out of people like Gressel, Escobar, Garza, the older guys like Lorenowitz and Parkhurst. Imagine what he could do with young players.
And also,
veterans like Michael
the one thing U.S. players are known for are being very hardworking and fit, and you have to be that in a Tata Martino pressing system. So he might actually be a good fit. But again, I don't trust the USSF to do anything properly.
Me neither, but that's a topic for another day.
They're going to hire Tab Brown.
You can find the podcast at MOTS Podcast. Make sure that you are following us on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube page. Hit the subscribe button, MOTS Podcast. That's how you can find that. Hit the bell for all the notifications of our latest shows.
We got 2 more subscribers.
During the show.
And one of them was me.
We're at 51. We're trying to get to our goal is 75. So let's get there. Tell your friends. All the Atlanta United fans that you know, let them know that you're listening to MOTS Podcast.
One guy tweeted this week that we're the best Atlanta United podcast.
That's true.
We got one guy.
That's true.
We got one.
The one. Facebook, you can find us at MOTS Podcast. Gentlemen, how can they find you?
At Sanjay Franco on Twitter, and you can tune in Monday through Friday, 6 to 10 a.m. at 960theref.com for my day job, which is me just delivering ridiculous hot takes about sports.
You're good at it, though, man.
I can throw those things out there like the best of them.
Sam is pretty much an Athens legend at this point.
Well, you know.
Been there the last billion years.
I have been there for a long time.
Paying your dues. And you can find me at JoshB914. Feel free to at me about Mark Geiger. You are wrong. He's a good referee. Read my piece on Dirty South Soccer tomorrow, which will dive a little deeper into the 5-3-2 formation we discussed at NYCFC. Have a wonderful week, everyone. Come get drunk with me at the tailgate in the Gulch on Sunday. You can, Sam said, slide into the DMs.
We won't have the Gulch much longer, man.
That's
like what is that, a $5 billion development they're putting down there?
Is that? I think it's is it next year the Gulch?
Well, it's a long-term process.
I think it's like a 2 or 3 year.
Yeah. So point is, at some point, we're not gonna have the Gulch anymore.
Exactly. How many chances are you gonna get?
That's the thing. They've got to figure this out because that Home Depot backyard is like a premium pay for tailgate. Where are people gonna tailgate?
Yeah, where are the common folk gonna go?
People gotta find a way.
Where there's a will.
You can find me at Eric G. Quintana. Donate to the podcast, patreon.com/MOTS podcast. Make sure you're following Dirty South Soccer for all the latest news and notes regarding Atlanta United. Anything else?
Where there's a will, there's an Orlando unintentionally giving him a contract extension.
Until next time.
Eric just shaking his head.
Until next time. See you later, Atlanta.
Of course. Yeah, we didn't mention it on the radio though. That's like the funniest story of the week for sure. Well, the tweet was great. It was just like an unnamed Orlando